Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. So cute, my little Hasanito. Swing state voters erupt for Trump. Also, why is Trey Yingst talking about swing state voters? He's in Tel Aviv. What is happening? Fox News foreign policy correspondent Trey Yingst joining us live from Tel Aviv to talk about the real swing state voters from America's most consequential swing state, Tel Aviv. What the fuck?
Meanwhile, with less than 24 hours to the election,
that was just the intro.
more than 4 million votes already cast in swing state Georgia. That's more than half the voters in the state. So, what are they saying this morning? Lawrence Jones is talking to them live at the Eggs Up Grill. It has been sold out since 4 a.m. in that Battleground state. Lawrence, let them loose.
I mean, it's like we're at a stadium. This is the overflow room here. USA? Oh, let's talk with some folks. It's amazing. So you already...
Dog, how did you know his name and where he was? That's not healthy, man. Trey Yingst, he's the Fox News guy. What? Of course I know his name and where he's stationed. He's the one. He is the guy.
Voted. What was the main issue for you when you went to vote?
Well, the borders of...
The only reason why they didn't actually ask Trey Yingst like what the situation is on the ground in terms of like the way that people in Tel Aviv think about Donald Trump is because it's plus 90 Donald Trump. That's why.
A big issue, and those people don't work, and we're giving them money like crazy. And I've worked all my life. I'm nearly 72 years old. Didn't even start drawing Social Security till I was 70. And, you know, it's just ridiculous what the Democrats wants to do. They're ruining this country.
Right.
A lot of people agree with him. I'm going to go to my friend right here. What's your name?
I'm Brittany Sorrells.
So, Brittany, what was the main issue when you went to the polls?
The main issue was just the fear of people voting in a direction that's going to take our economy in the wrong direction. My biggest priority is my family. I have 3 children, and if our economy doesn't change, it's going to be a hard candy Christmas this year. So
it may not even be a Christmas.
That's true.
Yeah, Democrats want to take away Christmas. I forgot. They're doing a war. They're doing a war against Christ. And they're doing a war against Christmas. No Christmas at all this year. The Democrats took it away. They took our gerbs and then they took our Christmas. Turns out Kamala wants to take away Christmas. What do we do? What do we do here, man? What do we do here? What are we doing? Like, we are such an abnormal country. I swear to fucking God, dude. Good luck.
So,
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Half the fucking population is hallucinating just entirely separate realities at this point.
I want y'all to meet my other friend here. Now, you have not voted, but you promised me that you're going to vote.
Oh, yes. I vote every time.
And so when you go tomorrow, are you undecided, by the way?
No, I'm very decided.
And what got you to that decision?
I love American. I love...
God damn, look at the crazy eyes on her. Jesus Christ.
Trump, and I love Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much. It's so easy, isn't it? All right, let's go to the other room. All right, now.
God, dude, yes. Give me more. Give me more.
Let's go. We're going to try to go to the other room. All right. We got another room. What's up, everybody? Okay.
Bro's in enemy territory. Yeah, that's why he has his dog with him, dude. He's like, protection.
I I want you to meet my friend here. You were telling me that you're passionate. What type of work do you do?
I'm an EKG technician at Advent Healthcare Redmond. It's a great place to work. With the economy that's going on, people can't afford to come to the hospital, pay for their bill, pay for their surgeries and everything. So it's tough out there.
So you were telling me earlier, it's not just the grocery store prices, but when people need health care, they can't even afford that.
Yeah, I know. They're having to choose between one or the other.
So the question is, who are you going to vote for now?
Trump.
Wow. All right. As you guys can see, in Rome, Georgia, we got a fired up crowd, and we got more of it after a quick break on Fox and Friends. So Brian, let's go talk with some women, because maybe they can give us
That abrupt cut was really funny. I'm sorry.
some insight to what's happening right here. I pointed you out earlier because I just knew you had some stuff to tell me. So they're saying this race is real tight here in Georgia. Who would have thought in Georgia it'd be tight here again? And they're saying the key demographic is women.
You said once these guys go to barbershops to talk to black people and diners to talk to white people, and I haven't seen you be wrong yet. Oh, yeah, no, that's the method.
What are women telling you? How do you feel about this election?
Oh, I feel like it's going to go towards Trump because the women are for Trump. You know, we're middle-class women. We're the ones that have to buy the groceries, pay the bills, and we know what's going on.
So the question is, ma'am, and I'm going to ask your friend next to you. So you got the grocery prices, and then you got the abortion issue. And they're targeting a lot of that abortion issue to women right now. What matters more, that issue or the grocery prices?
Well, it's definitely the grocery prices. I mean, I have a 32-year-old son that is barely making it buying groceries. He pays his mortgage, and that's it. Abortion is very, oh my goodness, it's heart-wrenching. So but it's just everything. It's just everything. And we need some happiness, you know. We need Trump.
Because you were back here agreeing. So I might as well get your thoughts on it. I heard the marbles. You know, why is it so close here in Georgia? It used to be a solid Republican state. Y'all even got a Republican governor, and you got 2 Democrats that are senators. Why is it so close here? What changed?
We had a lot of people come in through the Hollywood tax credits that changed the profile of Metro Atlanta. So,
Yeah, undesirables that came into my state. Okay, I don't like it. Get these gosh darn libtards out of here, please.
we have a different voter in the Metro than we do out here in what I call real Georgia, God's country.
Real Georgia, God's country. Oh, my bad. I didn't realize she was going to go that hard. Holy fuck. God damn.
We have lived here for a really long time, and we know what our values are, and we have turned out strongly over the last 3 weeks to vote for those values. We don't want to be a border county. Every county in Georgia is a border county when the buses roll in with illegal aliens.
So the big question to the crowd as we get a live look of everybody, does Georgia go back to red or does it remain blue? Red! Okay, this is what the people are saying, guys. I'll send it back to y'all. All right, we're back here in Georgia. It's a fired up crowd today. So everyone always says that the next generation, we're in trouble. I think it's different for these Gen Z voters. So tell me, as Gen Z voters,
Gen
what is
Z?
the top?
These motherfuckers are Gen Z. Bro's got a newsboy hat. What are you talking about, Gen Z? Ain't no way. Brother, I'm a 33-year-old man. I would call that person sir. Okay? I would call that person sir if I bumped into him. I'd be like, sorry, sir. Bro never gets carded? Yeah, no way.
Issue for y'all.
So for me, for someone who is about to graduate next year, for me, it's the economy and immigration. I have tons of friends who are still unemployed, who have not landed a job a year later after graduation. One of the things I'm concerned about is how much taxes am I going to be paying next year, listed in the Democratic plan. I mean, what am I going to be paying next year?
What about you, sir?
The same thing, economy and immigration. Immigration's a record high right now. Our economy is totally in the garbage. It's just everyone's living paycheck to paycheck, no matter how much you make, and it's just crazy. It's absurd.
Do you worry about buying your first house?
Oh, I'm really afraid that I'll never be able to buy a house if the economy keeps going the way it is.
Something has to change, right? All right, let's talk with some more folks back here. How y'all doing back here? What's your name, man?
Great, Carolyn Stallworth.
So, Carolyn, tell me, what's your number one issue?
Well, I have three: the economy, immigration, and health. Yeah. I am so glad that President Trump has added that to his key policies. Okay. Absolutely. Being the age that I am, and I was fortunate to be healthy until I was 75. So I know personally what the young folk are going to be going through as they age, and with food, synthetic foods, etc., being a major cause of our illnesses, I am just ecstatic that President.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Let's talk to your husband, right? Is this your husband?
Yes.
I assumed I got it right, huh?
You got it right.
So tell me, everybody's talking about black males and the record support for Donald Trump. Can you tell me why there is this explosion within our community?
Well, that would be a very difficult question for me to answer because
What explosion? I feel like when I tune into media and like liberals are talking about how like Trump is killing it with black men, and then Fox News is also saying Trump is killing it with black men, I'm like, where is this happening? Like, there is no explosion. It went from like 2 guys to 4. Like, it's not, it just doesn't, it's not real. You know what I mean? It's odd. It's odd that statistically that's an explosion of 100%. Exactly. But when you look at the totality, it's like marginal. It doesn't make any sense.
because I've been a Republican since 1962. So, but one of, my primary objectives are to get young people to the stage in life where they're willing to work for the things that they like to attain.
That's right.
And the problem we have in today's environment, so much has been given to them based on tax dollars. This is why our economy now is in the garbage can.
And that's why we got so much inflation.
Absolutely.
Yes. We got a massive crowd here. We got the front row Joes here. We're going to talk to them later, but we got a big show coming up on Fox and Friend live from Georgia. We'll see y'all in a bit.
Hell yeah, baby. That's crazy, bro. Stuck with the Republican Party after the Civil Rights Act and the Southern Strategy. I mean, that's a real one, dude. What do you mean?
Here we go. Let's go, Georgia.
That's a real one, brother.
We got a big crowd here today. Are y'all ready?
Put some respect on it. He's OG.
Let's go. It's crazy in here. This is a powerful state because Georgia, it was 12,000 votes that separated Joe Biden from Donald Trump, and they say they're going to turn this state back red. Is that right? So let's get to why. So we were talking earlier. You know exactly how the economy is affecting people day to day because you see it in your job, right?
That is correct.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so I'm in the auto industry. Here I've been 10 years consecutive at one dealership. A majority of our vehicles are trucks. Trucks, with the hindsight of the increase of doubling the gas, has hindered people from buying trucks because of the fuel price of going near $3 a gallon from what it used to be.
My man said, I'm in the auto industry. He sells cars. It's like, brother, you are not in the auto industry, okay? The fuck? it's like working the cash register at the local grocery and being like, well, you know, I'm in the food procurement and processing business. I'm managing the agricultural outputs.
$1.30, $1.40 a gallon while Trump was in office. And now we have the situation where people have to look at the payment, the insurance, and they'll look at the price of gas. And now the price of gas exceeds the monthly payment of what they're paying on their truck.
And that's affected everything. I know because my dad's a truck driver. Let's bring this barber in right here.
I'm in the fashion industry. I work at Kohl's. Yeah, I work in ag sector. That's right. I manage financial transactions for $1 billion company. Yep.
You're a barber, and you've been watching our barbershop series. So you run into a lot of folks. When you talk to them, when they're in your seat, what do they say is the number one issue facing the country?
Number one issue.
You know, I thought it's real weird because, like, my barber clientele does not look like the barbershops you've been to. Matter of fact, if they showed up at my barber, I'd be god dang scared.
Price of energy, and people forget all the things that's happened in the past 4 years. Who would have ever thought that $5 a gallon gas to go 3 hours to find baby formula? That happened in this 4-year period. We cannot have that again. We have to turn that around, and people forget all those little things that happened under Harris and Biden.
Wow. Turning the page. All right, let's talk with these folks. All right, ma'am. Tell me, what's your name?
My name's Lauren.
Lauren, so tell me, what's the number one issue facing this country right now?
I think border security. I have 3 young children, and I want them to grow up in a safe place. And the economy.
Why would someone in Georgia care about the border?
Because they are all coming in, and they are being distributed to all the states.
Yeah, a question I ask myself all the time. Because I've been told that they're crazy and they're coming over here. Wait. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm watching the door. He's going to the wrong house. No. No. Shit. No. God damn it. I'm so hungry. Chase him down? I'm not going to. Hold on. I might have to.
So they're in our own backyard. We know what happened in Athens, and it makes me very sad.
Yep, and we still that family still hasn't gotten a call from the President of the United States.
No, and no parent ever recovers.
It's unbelievable. Georgia, it's great to be here.
Didn't you already eat? No.
I'll send it back to you guys on the couch as I make my way to my seat.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
While the new shock results Iowa poll from pollster Ann Selzer has been blowing up everybody's news feeds, and for good reason, it is just one poll, and we should put it in the context of what's going on more broadly in the polling.
It's time to
as we're
get
getting
lived
into
up,
the
chat.
final polling before Election Day, including the big new poll from NBC News today. The top line of that one is that it's a tie, 49 for Harris, 49 for Trump. Even as the NBC poll shows a national deadlock, there's a couple of internal numbers that the pro-Harris side in particular is latching onto. For one, black voters in the NBC poll support Harris by a margin of 87% to 9%. In context, that's a 3-point larger margin with black voters than Biden won in 2020. Even though so much recent conversation about this campaign has centered on Harris supposedly having a slipping standing with black voters, in the NBC poll, she's doing better with black voters than Biden did. The NBC poll also shows a huge gender gap, which we're seeing in every poll, 34 points altogether. Women supporting Harris by 16, men supporting Trump by 18. Perhaps that is not surprising. On issues, Kamala Harris having a 20-point lead over Trump on the issue of abortion in the NBC poll. But there's a lot more here, and this is just part of the polling landscape as we do get our final look before actual vote starts to come in from actual voters on Tuesday. Let's bring in our friend Steve Kornacki, who was made for this and who is standing by at the big board with so much energy and stamina to spare. Steve, we're looking at you at the top of the mountain right now, my friend.
Well, here we go, Rachel. And look, when it comes to the polling right now, I think the safest thing to say is there are some extremely mixed signals that are coming in. You just talked about Iowa, obviously, a state Donald Trump won by nearly 10 points the last two elections. Now, at least in that Des Moines Register poll, having Harris slightly ahead. That it comes as this national poll shows Donald Trump, frankly, better position nationally than he finished in 2020 or 2016, and frankly, than he polled in either one of those elections, too. Our poll has it tied. Other national polls have it very much in this range of a tied race, maybe Harris by 1 or 2, maybe Trump by 1 or 2. That's a little different, and it leaves open lots of questions about what's going on in the battleground states, and perhaps outside of the battleground states. We'll get to that in a minute. But looking inside our NBC poll here, there's the question of enthusiasm, which always gets to the variable of turnout here. These are folks from our poll who rate themselves with the highest level of interest in this election. It is at 77% in our poll. You can see that is down a little bit from 2020. We had historic high turnout in 2020, 160 million voters. This number, too, when you look inside, the lowest levels of high interest are coming from non-white voters, Latino voters and black voters. Two ways to view that. Obviously, you're talking about traditionally core Democratic constituencies. That could take away from Democratic overall margins with those groups. It could also be trouble for Donald Trump, though, because polling has shown previously him expanding support with non-white voters. If he's starting to lose those potential voters to lack of interest, that could be trouble for his campaign. Then you take a look here at the issue.
Yeah, low turnout benefits the Democratic Party, which is kind of crazy to think about now, but low enthusiasm and low turnout at this stage is beneficial for the Democratic Party. What do you mean? I don't get it. All polls show that high propensity voters have swung for Kamala and the Democratic Party. Low and mid propensity voters, on the other hand, are going to Trump by wide margins, which means lack of enthusiasm or a depressed voter turnout will be more beneficial for the Democratic Party. High enthusiasm and higher turnout implies that there are, there are low and mid propensity voters that are interested and are going to go out and vote. And those numbers are aggressively in Donald Trump's favor.
It really, the climate we're seeing here is what we've seen the whole election. Harris's best advantage by far on the issue of abortion, 20 points over Trump on that. Trump here with the advantage on inflation and cost of living. The other one you don't see here, the biggest Trump advantage is the border and immigration. The gender gap, I think you...
For the record, this number, once again, the fact that they think Trump is competent and effective by 2 points is fucking insane. And I think that's a Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden drawing that down for Kamala. But the fact that inflation and cost of living, Trump only has plus 12 advantage is insane. And it is entirely due to Trump's, ironic to say this now, but incompetence. It is so glaringly obvious how fucking exceptionally bad Trump's campaign has been that, like, he only has a plus 12 on inflation and cost of living. That's crazy.
The biggest Trump advantage is the border and immigration. The gender gap, I think you talked about this one, but I mean, just to put this in context, Trump leading by 18 points with men, Harris leading by 16 with women, if that's what you get, something like that. That's a gender gap of 34 points. The previous high in history was 24 points. So this would absolutely shatter any historical record when it comes to the gender gap. Then there's this interesting issue of you've got an incumbent administration that Harris is a part of. Joe Biden's final approval rating in our poll is going to clock in at 41%. And obviously that low approval rating is one of the reasons there were Democrats who were anxious to get Biden out of this race earlier this year. Harris, part of that administration. How much is that weighting her down here? And then Trump himself, the approval rating for a former president seeking to become a future president. In our final poll here, when we ask people retrospectively, thinking back, do you now approve or disapprove of the job Donald Trump did as president? He's up to 48%.
This is not good for the Democrats.
Higher than Biden, and this is higher than any reading we ever got in an NBC poll when Donald Trump was president. So after leaving office, it has ticked up a little bit for him. Will that be enough to put him over the top? We talk all about the difference between early election day voting, the partisan disparities we're finding. Others are finding this too. Democrats, you can expect when early vote gets reported out, especially the mail-in vote on Tuesday night, should be some Democratic advantages. The election day vote becomes a question of how much of a Republican advantage when the people who vote on Election Day, when their votes start to get tabulated. Now we get to away from the national poll to the battlegrounds. This is our running average. We've been keeping this the entire summer and fall of the quality polls in all of the battleground states. And a couple things jump out here. Well, obviously, they're all close. You don't see a margin here of greater than 1.9 points. You do see a bit of a north-south divide. We've seen this lately in the polling. Trump's leads here, very small, but Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, basically Sun Belt states. Harris's best performances in here, Wisconsin, 1.4, 1.8 in Michigan. These are the northern tier states. 0.3 of a point in Pennsylvania. So a bit of a north-south divide. And if that holds, if that cements, that is ultimately good news for Harris, because Michigan plus Pennsylvania plus Wisconsin, if there are no surprises outside of the battleground, would for Harris equal 270 electoral votes. If the action really is limited to the battleground, Donald Trump has to win one of those three northern tier battleground states where our averages continue to show Harris with slight leads in those states. But then that gets to the question, if there are no surprises outside of the core 7 battleground states that we have talked about.
Yeah, New Hampshire, right?
Over and over about. And that is what the Des Moines Register poll really gets to. It's the question of what is happening in Iowa itself, because obviously you talked to Ann Selzer right there. One of the questions is, does this spill over to other states? Does this reflect something, if this is what's happening in Iowa, that might be happening in other states, maybe states we haven't been talking about, maybe some of the other battleground states? So a couple ways to look at this. One, obviously, I think you were talking about this, but the issue of abortion exceptionally potent in Iowa because that 6-week ban went into effect this summer. Millions of dollars in spending there, not in the presidential race, but congressional races where abortion has been a driving issue. Is this more of a state-specific effect that's limited more to Iowa, if this is what is happening in Iowa? One thing that keep in mind, I think, we'll go over here. This is going to start lighting up on Tuesday with our results. Iowa on Tuesday, I just want to show you the history here going back. Remember, this is an Obama-Trump state. It's one of the most dramatic swings from Obama to Trump. So you have voters here who not long ago were comfortable voting Democratic, blue-collar white voters, huge blue-collar white population here that swung very hard to Trump. There are more Obama-Trump counties in Iowa than any other state in the country. I raise that because what state is number 2? That would be Iowa's political cousin, right across the Mississippi River, Wisconsin. This has the second most Obama-Trump counties in the country, and demographically, these are extremely similar states. Large white populations, a lot of blue-collar, rural white populations. Even when you get into the Mississippi area, you can go back and find German descent is very common among people. Very common demographic features and politically similar movement here. We have not, for the most part, seen in Wisconsin the kind of polling shift we just saw in that new Iowa poll today. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If it potentially could be a state-specific thing, but if it's not, if it's spilling over, this is a place where you would expect to see it on Tuesday night because of those demographic similarities. And then, as I say, there's that question of, look, so much of the polling attention, the budgets for polling have been directed to the 7 battleground states. Is there actually something going on in Iowa? Was there something going on this whole time that was undetected? And could that be happening elsewhere? The early test you want to pay attention to on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. A lot of the polls are going to close in New Hampshire. And this was a state, again, not in the battleground. Biden won by 7. The Trump folks think this thing is a lot closer than most people are talking about. They sent J.D. Vance there today. And remember, in 2016, Clinton won New Hampshire over.
Big mistake. If you want to lock up a state, sending J.D. Vance there, probably not the best method. I'm just saying.
Over Trump. Of all the Clinton won states, none was closer than New Hampshire. The margin was just 3,000 votes between those candidates. So this is an early test, I think, for me on Tuesday night. Have we potentially misunderstood the non-battleground states? If we're seeing some kind of surprise in New Hampshire, I think that'll be obviously a huge development.
Obviously interesting, too, in terms of Trump's decision to spend some last-minute campaign time in Virginia, raising the question as to whether or not they think that's on the map as well. Steve Kornacki, just the beginning of what is going to be a beautiful relationship over these next many hours. Steve, thank you. We'll get back to you later on.
I strongly believe Ohio would be more blue than expected because of how much Ohioans hate JD. That would be insane.
Steve, we just had the Secretary of State from Arizona.
Dartmouth poll shows Harris 60. What? Brother. The J.D. Vance effect. Don't say it's New Hampshire. What are you talking about? It's New Hampshire? What the fuck are you talking about? It's New Hampshire. So, New Hampshire is 21 extra points more libbed up for Kamala Harris? Like, that's insane. No, I don't think this poll is accurate. That's a fucking psychotic poll. That would be if Kamala Harris picked up like 20 extra points from Joe Biden since 2020. If that was the case, then this would be an electoral landslide across the board. There is like no, Kamala Harris would be swinging Texas. That's insane.
Arizona confirmed their official results in Arizona. They are expecting to 10 to 13 days. They say with larger margins, maybe the media companies will be able to project things earlier than that. That's not their concern. Does that jibe with the way that you are thinking about Arizona? And indeed, how How should we set our expectations in terms of what we're going to know on election night?
Yeah, I think Arizona is the state, if it's suspenseful and if the Electoral College math is depending on Arizona, and add to that Nevada, one of those two states, it's going to be a while. If it's close in those states and the electoral math depends on it, for the reasons you just...
Don't know how to count over there. They literally don't know how to do math, bro. The further out west you get, the less people know math. California fucking included. It's not Alabama. I'm not even kidding. It's worse than Alabama. It's not even close. Nevada, Arizona, California, they just don't know how to do math. They don't know how to count.
Just heard in that interview, and it's fairly similar in Nevada, too, just in terms of it's a ton of mail-in ballots that they do not all get counted on election night or the day after, and it becomes a days-long process. So if the count is very close, if there's a possibility of the result changing as those days of subsequent mail-in voting counting take place, those states won't be called. If they're crucial to the math, we'll be waiting on them like last time around. That's the long game scenario, I think. But in the other battleground states, the 5 eastern battleground states, a bit of a different story potentially from 2020. Let's take you through Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. The polls are going to close in Georgia. This will be the first battleground state where we start getting results, and we expect we will get a lot of results. In Georgia, they can pre-process the mail ballots, the absentee ballots. Those can be pre-processed. So they don't, some states they have to wait till the polls close. It's a cumbersome process of verifying signatures. That can all be done ahead of time in Georgia, and there's a ton of early in-person voting, which is relatively easy to tabulate, too. There's also going to be folks who wait till election day to vote. Expect that to come in throughout the night, too. But the bottom line is you should have the vast majority of the vote counted in Georgia sometime late that night into the very, very early hours of Wednesday morning. Remember, Georgia's one of those states in 2020 it took so long because they had a flood of mail-in ballots. Mail-in voting is down 75% in Georgia, just mechanically going to be much easier, probably, to tabulate those results in North Carolina, in Georgia. To go to North Carolina, that's our second battleground poll closing, 7:30 Eastern. Very similar here. Expect of the mail voting that takes place, and again, that's down to the mail-in voting and the absentee to come fast and furious, not long after those polls close at 7:30. The same-day vote will then follow that, and you expect, as we showed you earlier, if you were watching, we expect the same-day vote in North Carolina and a lot of other places to favor Trump, to favor the Republicans. So put that on your radar right now in North Carolina. Likely what we expect is the Democrats will get their best numbers with the big early returns. And then the question becomes, can Trump erase that if the Democrats are ahead with the same day voting? So again, 7 o'clock hour, you're getting those two. I'll skip Pennsylvania for.
No, Steve Kornacki is not on cocaine. He is purely running on the love that he has for looking at polls, dude. This is his moment. Every 2 years, they take him out of a fucking vat and unleash him upon the unsuspecting masses. And he wins our hearts every single time.
For 1 second and just quickly take you through the other two Midwest states. Michigan is the state that's had massive changes to its procedures, a total overhaul. This is a state that took a long time because of the clog of mail-in voting in 2020. Well, now they can, this is brand new for Michigan, this idea of pre-processing mail-in votes. Again, all that administrative work to get the ballot ready to be counted, they're already doing that in most places in Michigan. That's a big change from 2020. So is the fact that Michigan now, unlike 2020, they have early in-person voting, and tons of people there, we're seeing from the stats, are taking advantage of it. So that combination of pre-processing, of reduced mail-in voting, and of that rise of early in-person voting, we could have, again, a much clearer picture of Michigan on election night than we've had before. Again, most of Michigan's going to close at 8 p.m. There's 4 counties on the fringes of the UP that stay open till 9 Eastern, but we will have results, no call, but we will have results in that 8 o'clock hour, a lot of them. Wisconsin, this could be very dramatic in the early hours of Wednesday, the wee hours of Wednesday. This is how it's played out a couple elections now recently. Just to explain it again, in Wisconsin, they've got something that resembles early in-person voting, but it's not technically called that. We don't have to get into that. But basically, folks who are voting early in person or who are voting absentee, there are some cities in Wisconsin where they take those votes and they count them at the end of the night in one location, and then all of those votes get released. And where that happens most dramatically, we will be talking about this as these results come in Tuesday, is the city of Milwaukee. All of the votes cast before Election Day are counted after everything else is counted. This usually happens like 2, 3 in the morning, maybe a little earlier if they're quicker, and then it all gets reported out. Huge Democratic city, biggest city in Wisconsin. We have seen in recent elections Republicans leading late.
Yeah, they're going to go to sleep again. And then they're going to wake up to fucking the Milwaukee vote dump. And they're going to lose their fucking minds, dude. Like, that's where all the black people live in the state of Wisconsin. That's where all the blacks live. Milwaukee. We know they've lied. They did it again.
And having that absentee early vote released from Milwaukee, putting the Democrats ahead. That happened with Joe Biden. It was the moment in 2020 when I realized Biden had shifted to the advantageous position over Trump. It was when Trump had about a 20,000 vote lead in Wisconsin, about 4 in the morning. That Milwaukee batch came in. Biden went ahead. Realized then Biden was probably going to win Milwaukee. Pay attention for that. If it's close everywhere else in Wisconsin, we are going to be waiting on that, and that's going to be a very significant moment in this election. And I'll just land here. I left Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania is the biggest wild card when it comes to the timing of this. Remember, in 2020, it was Pennsylvania that ultimately resulted in the election being called about 11:30 in the morning Saturday. What was that because of? Pennsylvania, for the first time, COVID emergency 2020, did vote by mail, and they were flooded with vote by mail, in part because Pennsylvania does not have that early in-person voting. So you're either voting by mail or you're voting on Election Day. There's a little bit of a shift in that this year, but again, that's the broad contour of it. The key, though, again, Pennsylvania did not change its laws. Part of the problem in 2020, all those mail-in votes, they had to wait till the Election Day to start going through them administratively. It just took forever. Didn't change the law, but again, with mail-in voting coming way down this year, that's just going to be a lot less to process for these counties. They've got more experience. They've had a few elections since 2020 doing it. And also there are procedures in place in some of these big counties now to continue counting round.
We're such a stupid country, bro. Like, the fact that we don't have some kind of federal guideline or standard on this process is so dumb. It's like, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like, why? Why does there have to be 50 different ways of doing this shit? It's so annoying. It's so fucking stupid, and it's deliberate. Like, there's a reason for why it's this stupid. Each state wants to enforce their own level of like restriction and control over the process. It's so brain broken. God. What a joke country we are.
The clock, not close down shop for the night. We saw that happen a bit in 2022. So the potential exists in Pennsylvania to be significantly faster than 2020. But as I say, it's a huge wild card because, again, with no changes in these laws, actually, you're just kind of depending on the mechanics being smoother and maybe the folks running these to have a little bit more experience, a little bit know-how. So we will see on Pennsylvania. Obviously, if we're waiting on that, that is going to be a huge piece of the electoral.
Literally the most important state in this election. Like, the entire race hinges on Pennsylvania. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, he wins. If Kamala Harris wins Pennsylvania, she wins. That's it. What a fucking whack-ass system.
electoral puzzle.
One slightly impolitic follow-up for you on this, Steve, when you talk about the mechanics and the different procedures that have been put in place, particularly ones that have changed since 2020, are there any of these real crucial jurisdictions that have really important races that we're going to be watching really carefully where you feel like they made some real inexplicable decisions in terms of new procedures or ways they're going to handle the vote that you're just watching for as a potential bottleneck? Are there places where the technocratic way they're approaching the count is something that's keeping you up at night?
Yeah, there's a couple things that were giving some concern to some election officials that are being held up by courts right now that I think could have been wild cards in this. There's a procedure in North Carolina, basically, about the early in-person voting that might have that delay. I mean, I'm talking like 15, 30 minutes there. I should say there is a change that I think is good in Pennsylvania. I say there are no big changes, but there's one in terms of just public knowing what's going on in Pennsylvania at midnight on election night. Even if there's all these uncounted mail-in votes, they have to now tell you, these counties do, how many total mail-in votes they have. So we will know at midnight, if this is all goes to plan, we will know what the universe is beyond that of mail-in votes to be counted. That was a bit of a mystery as that whole process played out in 2020. So from a transparency standpoint, if that is what we end up seeing, we'll have a little bit of clarity even if we don't have the votes in Pennsylvania.
Fascinating.
Georgia Fulton County installs panic button at each precinct.
Vote counting center like this one, Wolf.
All right, Sarah Murray in Georgia for us. We'll be in close touch with you. Clearly, thank you very, very much. Thanks. And to our viewers, thanks very much for watching. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. I'll be back tomorrow for special Election Day coverage starting at noon Eastern with my colleague, Aaron Burnett. Until then, once again, thanks very much. Aaron Burnett Out Front starts right now.
Out front next, down to the wire. We are in the final hour.
Do you still hold the reactionary position that electronic ballots are bad? No. You have misunderstood me, I think, either deliberately or maybe as a mistake. I maintain the position that paper ballots are and will be the safest way to vote regardless. Okay? That's it. Electronic ballots with a paper trail, paper signature, is still the safest way. It is not a reactionary position. It is the correct position. Anyway.
That's very helpful, Steve. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah. This is normally where I'd be doing what to watch, but ahead of Election Day, what we're all watching is how women
No paper trail is idiotic. Okay.
will affect this election and what this big gender gap we've been talking about.
I mean, most people disagree with you on this issue. Like I didn't come up with this conclusion on my own. Like this is what professionals say is the safest possible method. Like, I've never once heard a cybersecurity expert openly say that electronic voting on its own is good.
Actually means, especially in the crucial and very tied battleground state of Pennsylvania. Vice President Harris is counting on suburban women to put her over the top there, and she's got some unexpected help from some longtime Republicans. Weijia Jiang reports.
She's a self-proclaimed lifelong conservative.
Friends don't let friends vote Democrat. Yeah, boy, you have come a long way.
But the group Stephanie Sharp co-founded, Women for Us.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas,
Right.
is the message, yeah.
is urging fellow Republican women to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, turned off by former President Trump's rhetoric toward women.
I want to protect the women of our country, whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
And his role in reversing Roe v. Wade.
We'll send Donald Trump packing and have compromise on issues that are important to all of us.
In Pennsylvania, they are targeting voters in the Philadelphia suburbs that helped President Biden win the state 4 years ago.
I heard you talking about a clandestine sisterhood. What does that mean?
There are, again, hundreds of thousands of Republican women out there who are ready to vote outside their party, but they don't want to talk about it.
Across the battleground states, Post-it notes like these popping up in women's bathroom stalls are aimed at the so-called silent Harris supporter.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey. So are campaign ads like this one, narrated by Julia Roberts.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth.
These Trump supporters are skeptical of polling that shows Harris has a big lead among women.
God, I have a big group of families, and I don't know one woman who isn't going to go in there and proudly vote for Donald J. Trump.
For them, it's about policy, not personality.
We're not going home with him. We're not sitting and eating at the dining room table with him every night. But actions speak louder than words, and his actions are.
They're like, yeah, he's gross. Yeah, he's gross and gives off rapey vibes, but you know, I'm still voting for him. Hiện giờ thay phòng nhập phòng thông thông呢，是做开暗是马不都飞，看看到我们的职业班呢，这里本身单。